Lowell with liberty and justice for all. Again, good evening and welcome. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Here.
Mr. Conway.
Here.
Miss Doherty.
Here.
Miss Larraba.
Here.
Mr. Leahy.
Here.
Mr. Leary.
Here.
Miss Martin.
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. The first order of business is actually a special order of business. We have a communication actually from the Lowell Celebrates 175th Anniversary Committee. There's a kickoff celebration on Monday, April 11th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at City Hall, and I want to thank all the volunteers who are participating in this 175th celebration. I would direct my colleagues to the second page of the notice that indicates as part of the ongoing celebration, we're going to be holding a contest to collect Lowell stories. Residents who have stories about their experience living and or working in Lowell will be judged by a panel, and I would like to reach out to our high school and our other schools to see if any of our students want to participate in this effort, which is something that I think that the schools might actually have some fun with. So just want to bring that to the attention of my colleagues and Dr. Scott to see if we can get the school department involved in this effort. So again, this is just a communication from the Lowell Celebrates 175th Anniversary. If anybody has any questions, hearing none, accept a communication by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Larraba, and to accept the communication and place it on file. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Thank you. Next item under minutes. Chair recognizes Ms. Larraba.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you very much. I realize we have a lot of minutes to review. I would like to discuss the January 28th minutes.
Okay.
Despite numerous emails and requests of the recording secretary that they be adjusted, that has not happened. My concern is that we had several speakers, and we've only quoted a few of them in terms of a summary, and I truly feel that in order to have these minutes be reflective, that we should be consistent in how we handle all those speakers. In other words, either we just say that they spoke in favor, or they did not speak in favor, or a little summary of all of them. And despite that request, again, numerous times, I've been told flat out that that won't happen, and that I don't have the authority to ask for that to happen. So I would like to address that on the floor and ask respectfully that either we put the minutes in a format that's consistent and have all of them have a summary, or none of them.
Thank you, Ms. Larraba. Now, the minutes that I have in front of me, I do have 10 people listed as speaking on the 28th.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that there were more than 10?
No, sir. What I'm saying is we had 10 speakers, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them that are quoted, and the rest of them just say, spoke in favor. And my feeling is either all of them should just say spoke in favor, or they should all have a summary of what that was said.
Okay. Ms. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm assuming we'll need a suspension of the rules, but I'd like to make a motion that all speakers just be stated that they spoke in favor, and we can eliminate the problem.
Motion by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Conway, moving substitution, that all of the speakers be listed as speaking in favor. Ms. Larraba, do you want to be heard on the substitute?
Again, Your Honor, that was one of the suggestions that I had made originally. So that was, I'm happy with that resolution. There still is the issue, though, that I've got somebody saying that they refuse to do something.
Okay.
And I don't know if that needs to be addressed through the Personnel Subcommittee or not.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Martin?
For our purposes this evening, could we move forward with the motion and be able to move through and make that amendment and then approve the minutes?
Okay. Do we want a roll call on the substitute motion? All those in favor of the substitute motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote. Again, getting back to all 4 sets of minutes. Now again, as amended, because the January 28th minutes have again been revised. So I would entertain a motion to accept all 4 sets Motion by Mr. Conway, second by Ms. Doherty, that the minutes of the special meeting of January 28th, the regular school committee meeting of February 7th, the regular school committee of February 16th, and the regular school committee meeting of March 2nd be approved as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, it's a vote. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Lara.
At this point, what does happen with my other request?
Again, I'll be happy to, I actually don't know what will happen with your request. You and I have had discussions offline, and I'd be happy to continue those discussions, but unless you want to bring a motion forward that would get seconded, I don't know at this particular point what will happen with your request. Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. I don't know. I think times have changed, and I think that, you know, the meetings are televised now, so we do have a recording of the meeting. So, you know, from this point forward, I mean, the minutes have just always been probably more information than we really need to put in them. So,
And you bring up a good point.
I think at this point now, we do have a good record of the minutes as far as they're televised and it's on video. So, I mean, maybe we could just agree that at this point on, the minutes just need to reflect the basic.
Right, similar
votes
to
and-
the city council meeting, and I'm
Sure,
glad you
we'll
brought that up,
just-
because I did have a meeting with our recording secretary and the city solicitor yesterday to talk about just that, to instead of having word-for-word dictation, if you will, of our minutes, that we basically take the motions, get those written, some of the discussion, get those written. I actually gave our recording secretary a copy of minutes from our city council meeting, and you bring up a good point that now that these meetings are televised, we have a record of the minutes. So I think that that's probably a good suggestion, and we can do that going forward if it's okay. with
That's all
my
agreeable,
colleague.
sure.
Okay. Ms. Lara.
And again, you did have that offline conversation with me, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm specifically talking about the issue that I have with getting an email that says no committee member has a right to tell me what to put in my minutes. That's not a tone that I appreciate having, and as somebody who is on the committee and reviewing these minutes for accuracy and completeness, I absolutely do have a right, subject to everyone's review afterwards, to approve the minutes or not approve the minutes.
Right.
And this is not the first time that I've gotten this kind of response. So I would like to find out how I assure that I don't receive that response in the future.
Okay, I will do my best to assure that you don't receive that type of response in the future.
Thank you.
Get that from the chair. Thank you. Moving on with the agenda, under permission to enter, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Audio Hearing Center for $10,000 to amend the existing contract to provide for additional audiological evaluations, equipment monitoring, training for Lowell Public Schools, funding provided by the Special Education Department, local and special education grant budgets. NRT bus for the amount of $2,627,700 to amend the existing contract for regular education student transportation services to include the period from July 1, 2011 through June 30th, 2012. Funding provided by local budget, regular education student transportation. Steps Professional Development USA for the amount of $3,500 to amend the existing contract to provide 7 days of professional development training to one math coach from the Merkland School who will receive mathematics instruction training on the STEPS Professional Development in Mathematics program to become a trainer of trainers for all mathematics teachers in Lowell Public Schools. Funding provided by the School Department Professional Development account. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. Any questions? Motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leary, to approve the items under permission to enter. Roll call.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee.
Yes,
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. Under memorials, I'll ask the committee as a whole to rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers for the following: the people of Japan as they deal with the aftermath of the earthquake and the tsunami; Shirley Lyko, mother of Kimberly Broadhurst, Sullivan Middle School teacher; Dorothy Blanchett, mother of Lisa Kunzler, Malloy School teacher; and Rose Marie Bergeron, paraprofessional at the Merkland School; and William Eklund, husband of retired Bartlett school teacher Virginia Eklund. May we all rise in a moment of silence.
Thanks, honey.
Thank you. May they rest in peace. Okay, moving on with the agenda. We don't have any unfinished business. Oh, Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in terms of unfinished business, I know that this committee is expecting a report on, I believe it was Mr. Leahy's motion regarding televising subcommittee meetings. I wasn't in our packet. I don't know when we could. I was just wondering when we could expect to resolve that unfinished business.
Okay. Do we have an update on Mr. Leahy's motion, Dr. Scott?
I would ask Mr. Lang if he could comment. We did have a meeting with regards to the matter, and there has been some discussion, but I haven't seen any numbers yet. Mr. Lang, do you have an update for us on that?
Sure, I can have a written report for the next meeting of the school committee. I did have a nice discussion with Jack Bernard, our television coordinator from the high school. We looked at some space at the Rogers School to possibly outfit and retrofit with fixed cameras and a very similar station to here. The cost, the ballpark, is going to be in the $20,000 range. Soup to nuts to do the whole thing up the professional way. We are looking to see if we could possibly allocate some money through the portion of funds we receive from the city's cable contract that goes towards that kind of a purpose. Either if there are remaining funds in the budget between now and June 30th, or at a minimum set aside some funds for July 1st for the budget to be able to do some retrofitting over the course of the summer. It's not something that can turn around in like 2 to 4 weeks. It's definitely going to take a couple of months to do an order, to get the materials installed, and then have it up and running. But I do think, within like a 3-month period, it's very likely that we could do that. And I will have fixed costs into full report for the April 7th or 5th, whatever the first meeting in April is. I'll have your full report, and you can take action at that evening.
Ms. Martin?
Just as a follow-up, because I know June Cormier has been wonderful about chasing me about scheduling some meetings, and I didn't want to schedule anything until we had kind of determined how we were moving forward. I know there were some current concerns about having any of our meetings, without televised, the cameras there. I just want to, and I don't know if it's something that we need to decide as a group, if we are going to move forward with our regular subcommittee meetings, if the administration is comfortable with that, if this committee is comfortable with that, just because I know there's a lot of work that's been held back because we hadn't had a resolution on that. Okay. And I don't know if it's appropriate to do it here, Mr. Mayor, or if I should wait.
I would say, because it wasn't on the agenda, that we should probably wait till we get the report. Thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Conway.
I think one of the motions addresses this situation, so I think perhaps that could be discussed at that point.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anything else on unfinished business? Moving on to public participation. This evening we have open public participation regarding the superintendent's search. We do have on our agenda 3 people who have registered to speak, but we do have other people in the audience who have expressed an interest in speaking, so I would entertain a motion by Ms. Larrabee, seconded by Mr. Conway, that we suspend the rules under public participation in order to allow those who would like to speak to speak. The chair would remind those that are planning to speak that we do have a 5-minute rule here in the chamber. So again, all those in favor of suspending the rule signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. We'll begin with the people that have registered. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. If we could just ask that people sign up on the sheet when they speak if they haven't signed up for the recording secretary, so she'll have the name and all the spelling and all that. Thank you.
I'll take the first 3 in order and then open it up to the audience. Michael J. Hayden, 25 Hadley Street, Lowell. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening. Thank you, Your Honor. To you and the school board members, Madam Superintendent, and the administrators that are here. I thank you for giving me this opportunity. As someone who was born and brought up in Lowell and went to Lowell schools, as my children did, I think Lowell has one of the best school systems, if not the best, I've ever seen. What I think you need to look for in the new superintendent is more like a business model. The new superintendent should be someone who realizes that the only product they have is our children and their education. Someone who realizes that of all the tools they have, the most powerful tool is the classroom teacher, because without the classroom teacher, you can't accomplish anything. We need someone who knows or is willing to learn about our community and interact with our community. Someone who can work with our labor unions and keep things moving. That's very essential. Someone who doesn't micromanage. Someone who isn't going to succumb to political pressure. Someone who's not afraid to say no to a committee member when it is for best for the school district. And someone who's looking to save tax dollars regardless of outside pressures. Bottom line, if you go by the model you have in front of you now, I don't think you can go wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. Kathleen McLaughlin, 11 Demurle Street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the school committee. Thanks for letting me speak on this issue. I come in a lot of capacities here. I'm a math resource teacher at the Lincoln and Bailey schools. I represent the teachers and paras as the executive vice president of the teachers union. I'm a resident of the city, and most importantly, I'm a mom. My 2 children will enter the Lowell Public Schools during this next superintendent's tenure. So this is a really important issue for me personally and for the people that I represent. So I've done a lot of thinking about what I think are really essential qualities in a new superintendent. I'd like to share them with you. One, this person must have extensive teaching in an urban classroom. It's the only way to really understand the priorities of our classroom teachers. And it's that classroom experience that I've seen our great leaders in this district fall back on when they're prioritizing budgets, when they're setting the vision for the school system, and when they're instituting initiatives that are going to move our schools forward. We also need somebody who works cooperatively with all parties, really listens to diverse views, makes great decisions, and transparently explains the rationale for those decisions. And we need someone who's comfortable with a model of shared decision-making. This job isn't about one person, it's about what all of us can do together. And we need somebody who's comfortable with building capacity within our schools and empowering our professionals to be just that. Our teachers really are educational experts, and we need somebody who recognizes that in them and empowers them to use their knowledge. We need someone who's by nature a problem solver, somebody who wants to resolve issues respectfully, bring people together towards common goals. We need someone who understands the importance of creating a supportive culture and climate and the potential of culture and climate to transform our work. We need someone who sees the schools as an integral part of the community and the community as an integral part of our schools. We need someone who loves this city and the school system just as much as I do. That's what I want for this system. We need someone who recognizes and cherishes the abilities and talents of our children, our faculty, and our community. What we don't need is someone who thinks that we're a district to be saved, because we are not. We need to be supported, respected, and considered a vital part of a hopeful, inspired vision for the Lowell Public Schools. We need a superintendent who recognizes that the schools in our district demonstrate continuous growth. They're focused on working collaboratively to find solutions that benefit our students. We're building our instructional repertoires together as teachers, as school communities, as a school system. And we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of upcoming initiatives, the Common Core, and we need a superintendent who draws on our strengths, values our role as practitioners, and empowers us to make the decisions that make a difference in the learning of our students. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Anita Downs, 48 West Forest Street.
Thank you for letting us speak tonight, and thank you for inviting Citywide Parent Council to state their opinions. I represent Citywide Parent Council as well as being a parent and a taxpayer. My son's a senior, so this is the last year I have as a parent in the school system, but I'm not going away. So I think the person we're looking for as a superintendent, I don't think the qualities have changed since the last time we were searching for superintendent. I think we need somebody who's visible in our school community, somebody who's an ambassador for our city, somebody who's a great communicator to parents and school committee and teachers and any community member who chooses to stay involved in the school system. Somebody who's able to think outside the box and come up with some creative solutions to the unique problems we have here in Lowell. And somebody who wants to work with the great system we have, not change it completely, because there are a lot of good things that are working here. Somebody who's open to suggestions and ideas of staff and parents, and someone who has urban and diverse community experience. Somebody who's not only urban, but somebody who knows what a diverse population is and how you can work with it. And as a parent, and listening to parents who have been giving me input, someone with a proven track record with engaging and communicating with parents and community. And again, I'd just like to reiterate that the search is on, and we have some applicants, but please just be careful and make sure we have a very thoughtful process. If we don't have the right candidates, let's do the right thing and appoint somebody and use the search later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Victoria Fallberg, and I'm here tonight as a person who worked in partnership with the Lowell Public Schools for 7 years with at-risk students in the middle schools and the high school, and also as a mother of 2 students who've gone through the Lowell Public Schools, a daughter and a son. The most important thing that I would like to see in a superintendent is that the learning needs of some specific groups will be considered, even if they are not mandated by law and do not have the privilege of an IEP. When student learning needs are not met, these students lose motivation for learning, which can impact their entire life. I would like to speak of 3 unique groups whose learning, in my opinion, could be improved. The first is the learning need of boys. Since 2003, only 41% of boys, compared with 51% of girls, are going to college. The average college student body today is 58% female, 42% male. Most of those girls will finish their degree, most of the boys will not. Since 1980, only 1 in 10 boys reads now, just because they enjoy reading. In 2007, the National Institute of Mental Health published the results of a longitudinal study of brain development that demonstrated that various regions of the brain develop in a different sequence and tempo in girls compared with boys. The implications for education are enormous, as studies also show that teaching style in most classrooms are more conducive to learning for girls than for boys. In 2010, the 4-year graduation rate at Lowell High School showed that only 63% of our boys are graduating in 4 years versus 76% of girls, and the 2010 dropout rate for boys was 18% compared to 9% for girls, showing that twice as many of our boys are dropping out of school than girls. I believe that the Lowell Public Schools needs a superintendent who understands the unique learning needs of boys and is willing to make changes in the classroom that will address the crisis of boys' unique learning needs that are not being considered. The second thing is the learning needs of our Hispanic students. According to the Mass Department of Education, graduation rates for all of Lowell High hit a high in 2008, but have declined in the last 2 years. What has been consistent since 2006, when this data became available, is that our Hispanic students are dropping out at twice the rate of Asian, Black, or white students at Lowell High School, and only 56%, just slightly more than half of our Hispanic students, are graduating after 4 years. I believe that the Lowell Public Schools needs a superintendent who has experience improving the learning environment for Hispanic students, and preferably has the cultural and linguistic background that can be used to decrease the dropout rate and improve graduation rates for our Hispanic students. Finally, learning needs for our most advanced students. During the elementary and middle school years, I've observed that academically advanced students are not sufficiently challenged. By the end of the 8th grade, school can be viewed by these students as boring and unrewarding. They then enter high school without the study skills or time management skills necessary to do well in programs such as the Lyceum. Once in the Lyceum, it becomes a survival of the fittest, where students either learn the time management and study skills they must develop to keep up, or they leave. When students leave the Lyceum, I do not believe those students have failed. I believe that we have failed them. We also have many advanced students who are not in the Lyceum, and we need to do better for them as well. These students, like my daughter, can graduate with a GPA of 3.9, top 8% of her class, and not have the study skills or time management skills to do well in college. Like students entering the Lyceum, they will sink or eventually learn to swim. Here is what we know based on the 2010 advanced placement test results for those students who placed at the top by getting a 4 or 5 on the test. In U.S. history, 55% of Lyceum students compared to only 42% of non-Lyceum students placed at the top. English, 38% Lyceum students compared to 10% non-Lyceum students. Psychology, 62% Lyceum students compared to 38% non-Lyceum students. Calculus AB, 48% Lyceum students compared to only half that number of non-Lyceum students. This data demonstrates the rigorous preparation of Lyceum students during their 9th and 10th grade years is giving them an advantage that our other students are not receiving. I believe that the Lowell Public Schools needs a superintendent who can improve rigor for advanced students in K through 8 and can oversee the creation of course curriculums in the high school such that the rigor of all the courses can be objectively evaluated, that parent and students can easily access these courses, and which will ensure that all of our most advanced students are getting the experience, rigor, and opportunity in the courses that I believe they deserve. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you very much for giving all of us the opportunity to express our wishes for the next superintendent.
Thank you, Victoria. Anyone else? Is anyone, go.
Yes, hi, my name is Dorothy McGrath. I'm totally unprepared for this, but I did see the ad in the paper that we were allowed to speak tonight about the superintendent if we desired to do so. So I thank you for that. I am very, very familiar with the Lowell school system. I raised 3 children, and now I have 4 grandchildren in the Lowell school system. So I'm here tonight as a guardian. I'm here as Travis Gendron's grandmother, and I think sometimes pictures, words speak louder than words, and so I would like to share this with the committee. And because, you know, we are limited to our speech, I will, while they are looking at that, tell you how I feel about the superintendent of schools. I want you to know that when we were hiring Ms. Scott, I want you to know that I followed that very, very, very closely, because to me, the most important thing for our children is their schooling. And I feel the same way about a superintendent of schools as I do as a superintendent of police. I know that the superintendent of police has probably one of the most hardest jobs in the city of Lowell, and I have the highest respect for him. I also have the highest respect for Ms. Scott, and I want you to know that when I was reading the articles that you people were hiring, on every column that she wrote before she was elected, her bottom line was, my door is opened to any parent, any grandparent, or anyone who wishes to see me at any particular time, and I want that to be known. And in every single article my daughter and I read, it said, you are more than welcome, my door is open. And through that, we found that we certainly did need to see Ms. Scott. And these pictures that the committee is looking at, I feel bad for the people behind me. What it is my grandson is Travis Gendron, and the citation that I brought in is a citation that he was awarded by Bud Caulfield for saving a child from choking in the corridor at the Shaughnessy School. He attended the Shaughnessy School for 4 years, and I can't even tell you what they've done for him. He left a Catholic school. I'm not going to mention the name because I don't want to put any particular names of schools into. However, when the Shaughnessy School got him, they could not realize how far behind he was in his phonics. And he went into a special class, and he has gone through the courses of special reading, and he is now an AB student, and it's just absolutely wonderful. But Travis, being a grandmother, you cannot brag, and that's why there was nothing made about that citation of Travis saving a child from choking. You cannot brag, because as much good as a child does wrong.
And Travis is no different than any other child. And with Travis, what his problem is he will help anybody. He loves to have fun, and he has a very difficult time sitting still in school. Very, very difficult time. I raised a son that is 42 years old now that was exactly the same way. And I was told he's an all-American boy, and someday he's going to be a very smart man, and he will do well. And today my son, I'm proud to say, has succeeded, and he does very well. He's a very educated person, and he takes very good care of himself. I really don't want to get on to too much. What I do want to say is that I've always felt free, always. If there was a problem at the school, that I could get in contact, which I never had to, with the superintendent of schools, which is everybody's boss. And I have told my 2 daughters that are bringing up their children in the school system now, there are 2 sides to every story. There are 2 sides to every story. And one day my grandson, because I babysat him in the morning before his mother went off she had to go off to work, so I fed him his breakfast. And children talk innocently. They tell you things, you don't have to ask. And a child will tell you about a teacher. And I heard many stories, and I listened. And I thought, wow, that doesn't sound right. But I listened some more. And sure enough, there was a problem at the school. A teacher and a child can have a personality conflict. It can be there. It can be there. And for a child to be frightened to go to school, and a child to be afraid to talk to a teacher, or a child to be afraid to come home and tell his parent, I did this or I did that in school, you listen. And as a grandmother, it's much, much, much more easier, because I found out that children talk to their grandmothers. So I found out a lot of stuff that was helpful for me, because I had feedback. And the feedback that I had worked very well. Because what happened was my grandson ended up being transferred from one school to another, where in one school he was getting D's. And when he went to the new school, he's on the honor roll. And believe me, I'm not even going to mention some of the things that did happen between the teacher and the student. But we have to remember that there's 2 sides to every story. And when you can't settle it when in the school, my father taught me there is one boss. There's only one. Teachers, I have the highest respect. I can't tell you. The only problem with the teachers is they don't get paid enough. They'll never get paid enough money for what they do. And I was told my grandson has 27 children in his classroom. I take 4 grandchildren out for lunch. I couldn't imagine sitting at a table with 27 children, having lunch and trying to teach them something on top of that. So, in conclusion, what I'd like to ask is that you really, really consider a person that would make us feel as free as Ms. Scott did to my door. That was the bottom line. My door is open any time. And believe me, I don't mean run down because there was a little this or that. I'm talking about serious problems that need to be discussed. And I would love that privilege. And there is one picture that I did show you of the family, Travis's family. And in that was the mom and the dad. She wasn't able to come tonight because since that picture was taken, J.R., Travis's father, was 42 years old. He was a plumber, master plumber, worked the full day, came home from work, did the same routine that he did every night, sat down, had supper with his children, did their homework with them, discussed their day, sat down to watch his TV programs, and said to his wife, something feels funny tonight, I don't feel very well, I can't breathe that well. And at 42 years old, J.R. Roland Gendron, passed away. So 2 little children, Michaela 13 and Travis 11, are now without their dad. And so it's doubly hard to try to get a child to sit right or to understand what school is all about. Just trying to teach them why their daddy was sent up to heaven so early. So I'm asking you tonight, when you do decide to hire whoever you're going to hire, I know you're going to do an excellent job. I have nothing but good to say about this. I've lived in Lowell all of my life, and I have nothing bad to say about it. And I thank each and every one of the school committee, the time that you put into it, it's unbelievable. I read the papers. I'm more involved with my grandchildren than I was with my own children, because back then I was working, and so I'm much more involved with the grandchildren. So when it does time to hire, I know everybody, like said, you know how important it is for their educations, but I'm asking you to also consider someone that would consider us just as important as they are, and that we're all on the same level, helping these children to know that their education is so, so, so important, and that if we have a serious problem, that we would be allowed to be free. And the statement was even made by Ms. Scott, why don't you come down and join me for a cup of tea? When they gave out the certificate for Travis's, she said, feel free to come in and join me for a cup of tea someday. That was pretty special. And that's all that's all I would ask, that the superintendent would make us feel, the city of Lowell, you're so important, your children mean the world to us, come on down, and we're willing to help all of you. And thank you so much. I think I took a little bit more than 5 minutes, and I'm really sorry about that, but it was just so important to get that out tonight. I appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, committee members, for letting us speak tonight. My name is John Shepard. I'm a lifelong resident of Lowell, a graduate of Lowell schools. My kids have gone and still go to Lowell schools. I just want to make one quick point. The committee has set certainly an aggressive schedule for hiring a replacement superintendent. And the one point I want to make is it seems the best thing that we can do going forward is to make sure we hire the right person, not necessarily a person just to get the position filled. This has been played out in the newspapers more than enough, and different opinions have been raised, but just, again, the one point I want to make is let's make sure it's the right person. And if that means reconsidering an interim superintendent, by all means, let's consider all options rather than just hire somebody to hire somebody. Let's make sure we have the right person. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, I want to thank those that spoke under the public participation portion of the agenda, and your comments will be duly noted. And again, thank you so much for your participation. Moving on with the agenda. Next item under motions, the first motion by Mr. Leahy. Have the Lowell High School Subcommittee discuss how to install the high school letters or signage around the school in the appropriate places. Second by Mr. Conway. Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. In this motion where it's kind of general, I wasn't sure how to word it, but basically what I'm looking for, especially at the high school, is when you come in the front doors, you should be able to look up and see where you are. And we don't have the appropriate signage basically in the front entrance, maybe in the cafeteria, and certain parts of the building. So when you come in the door, you should see Lowell High School, or Lowell High School, home of the Red Raiders. And just basically by being in the building the other day for our meeting too, I noticed that there's some small signage issues with teachers' bathrooms, teachers' workroom, things like that. So if we could, I would like to, move this as fast as possible and try to get some financial prices on what type of signage, or how we'd like to do it, if we could do it with people from the high school. But it should be, when you come in, you know where you are, Lowell High School. And we'd like it to look professional and, really stand out and make the school, beautify the school. So that's the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Next motion by Ms. Larraba, request that all regular, special, and subcommittee meetings of the Lowell School Committee be held at a time and place that allows the working public to participate in the process without undue hardship to their working schedule. If the committee determines that a meeting needs to be scheduled during regular working hours, then that meeting should be telecast on the local cable access station. Is there a second on the motion? Second by Mr. Leahy. Ms. Larraba.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I know that we've had discussions about televising our meetings, and we are working on that process. Just in terms of scheduling, though, we have a lot going on in the district. We have a lot going on in the high school. We've had a level of interest that I certainly haven't seen in the last few years of people that want to know what's going on, want to see what's going on, and actively take part. So I would just ask that we go that extra step to make sure that we are having as many meetings as possible that are available to as many people as possible. And whether that's having them in the early evenings or just making sure that we do have an ability to televise them, that way people can at least check in on the meeting after the fact. Thank you. Mr. Conway?
Yeah, just very briefly on the motion, and I certainly agree with my colleague. The only thing is, when we take a look at it, there are so many subcommittee meetings that we have had, and I know that, again, June Cormier has done an absolutely fantastic job trying to fit all these in and ask us when we're available, and it really goes beyond a Herculean task to try to set this all straight. And I think that I think perhaps one of the issues was when we had the athletic subcommittee in the morning, because we wanted to take a look at the staffing for the spring sports. And as we all know, that spring sports are happening in the next week or so. And the coaches have already started in, and they've done their recruiting and so forth. So we needed to find out whether the staffing, we had enough of staffing to take care of our different levels that we were certainly concerned about. And I think that the meeting was due, I think when we took a look at it, it was going to be posted in 5 weeks. I think that was the closest. And I think LTC has mentioned that, they obviously cannot accommodate all our meetings. And I think at this particular point, they were talking about doing just a few of the meetings and to try to get some of the other meetings at the high school. And one of my colleagues asked if it was possible if we could have a morning meeting before the coaches went out with their students, went out with their athletes, and I said fine if that's what we'll do. And anyways, that's one of the reasons why we had that. And again, I agree with Ms. Larraba. I think that we need to have as many on television as we possibly can, but there's, needless to say, I don't think the average person realizes how many are involved, how many of these meetings. So I think that taking a look at this, again, I agree with it, but I would like to make a friendly amendment to that motion, if at all possible, and that is, at the end of that, just say, whenever feasible. So I'd like to make that as a friendly amended motion.
Does the maker of the motion feel okay with that? A friendly amendment, usually the maker has to acquiesce to that. So I guess what Mr. Conway is saying is that meeting be telecast on the local cable access station, if feasible.
My only concern about that is My only concern is that we may not work as hard to make sure that we're getting in front of the television cameras. And I certainly understand the reasons for the meeting being during the day, but there are many, many parents that are very interested in not only the athletic subcommittee, but in the Lowell High School subcommittee. You know, the number of parents that have come up to me and asked those kind of questions, I really think we need to make it happen.
Mr. Conway?
Once again, this was not the norm. This was an exception. This is something that we had to, I think we had to do right away. Once again, there are so many things in front of us right now, so many different issues that we have to deal with, that I just hate to put some of these off a month or 6 weeks and not have that meeting because it's not televised. Again, I think that all of us here would like to have it televised if at all possible. And I think we're trying to work this out at the high school with Jack Pennard. And again, that becomes a scheduling situation. When can we have that done? Are students available? And are the costs, what is the cost of that also? That's something we have to take into consideration. You know, Mr. Mayor, sometimes we're out 3-4 times a week. And if we have to have those meetings all the meetings on television, and again, it's great if we have them, but it's going to be costly. And I'd like to find out how much is that going to cost each time we have to have Jack Pennard at the high school deal with the situation. So again, that's the only thing I'm saying is I think that, you know, going forward, it's whenever feasible, and I think we all want to do that. But I don't want to put us in a corner and not be able to have a meeting that we have to address something that's extremely important that can affect staff and, more importantly, affect our students, and put it off because it's not on television. Thank you.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. This sounds very similar to a motion we had not that long ago, where I, again, made the same argument that when we're able to do it, that we should do it. But I have to agree with my colleague on the right. I could not support the motion without, when feasible, being added, because it locks us into not doing the work of this committee indefinitely. We have no control over the staffing issues at LTC. We have, you know, our own television studio at the high school has a mission that's geared towards educating our students. Their own staffing has been reduced, as this committee well knows, in the last years of budget cuts. I'd love to see that Communications Academy grow. I'd love to see that staffing get back up. I think Mr. Lang's idea about creating a separate kind of studio facility, these are good ideas. They're not going to happen tomorrow. Meanwhile, the work of the district must continue. So if the maker of the motion is not amenable to putting when feasible in there, I would not support the motion the way it is, because we have important things that have to happen, and we can't be hammered by this issue.
Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. I agree with my colleagues that, I mean, I think we already do this anyway, so you're kind of just going over something that we already do. And to not be flexible, if that's what it means to not have a meeting, if it's not televised, then, you know, that's not being flexible. I mean, we try to have as many meetings at night, and we do them at 7 o'clock, so that accommodates people, so everyone can go home for dinner, and then get out and do what you have to do with your kids. And, I mean, for the most part, we already do this, so I guess you just need to clarify it if it means not having a meeting if it's not on TV.
If I could speak from the chair, Mr. Leary, I'm sorry.
And I guess the follow-up through you, Mayor, through the superintendent, we're going to try to get a report on the costs of what it would take to set up another facility within the school department. And can we guarantee that that's going to come before the next meeting? Is that something that you feel confident that you can have cost delivered, whatever the process would be, so we can take a look at allocating money or going after other sources of money? Because this is bigger than just the Lowell Public Schools. If you look at, I'm going to get killed for saying this, but I'll say it anyway, the health department none of their meetings are getting killed. I mean, getting, I'm going to get killed for saying it. None of their meetings are being televised. And that's a pretty important board. I mean, and that's, I think, we should be partnering with the city, because the more access we get to television or whatever, I think it's important. So if we can get that information, I know it's a pain in the neck to do, and I know you guys have already begun working on it, but tie the city into some of these costs and LTC in the budget, because we have city boards that don't have the time. And I'm sure there's other types of community events that we could get covered. And we have plenty of space at the high school, at different facilities that could be of major importance. We could start covering the Friends of Lowell High meetings on television. We could cover different PTO groups on television. It's something that I think people are not always able to get to these meetings for a variety of reasons. More access, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Larraba.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, and thank you to my colleagues for all their comments. It certainly wasn't my intent to say that business should stop. My intent on this is to say that when we have tough decisions and we have many things that we're discussing at the subcommittee level, it is even more important that we make sure that people know what's going on and can be a part of that, either in person or via television. I certainly don't want to be known as inflexible, so I'm more than happy to add the feasibility part of it, as long as we're going to make a good faith effort to make sure that we're opening these meetings, especially since the amount of work that we do at those subcommittee levels really drive what happens in this district. So if that's what it takes, then yes, I'll accept the feasibility.
Thank you, Ms. Lara. So we're going to add whenever feasible, when feasible, to the end of the motion. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think also the distinction is, I know Ms. Larraba had made this motion, but I know we've also had concerns expressed from the administration about having subcommittee meetings without them being televised, as I mentioned earlier. So I think that if this committee is making the decision that it is, we're going to do our best to televise meetings with the recognition, to Ms. Laraba's credit, that we are not going to be able to televise all of our meetings. We've been told this expressly. It's not going to happen. So I think we need to be reasonable in saying that moving forward, we'll try, but the reality is that it's not going to happen all the time. I think that, as Mr. Lang has discussed, moving forward with outfitting a room at the Rogers, I think that's a really interesting idea. I also think that the idea that we had discussed previously in terms of doing the mayor's reception room, I don't know what the benefit is of doing it at the school department as opposed to doing it here. The added benefit being that the city would then have to bear some additional payment for it. Not for nothing. But, so I think that that's part of it. I also think if we're going to be getting a report of what these expenses are going to be, we have the equipment already at Lowell High School. What we can't afford is to pay someone to be there. We have the equipment here. What we can't afford is the LTC staff to be here. So I think we need to be cognizant that if we're moving in this direction, this isn't going to be a one-time $20,000 expense. This is going to be an ongoing expense, and if we are committed to it, and it's a decision this committee needs to make in total, great. But that's something that's the type of information we're really going to need to consider, as we move forward. So I guess my two concerns this evening that I'd, like to see resolved are, one, to have that long-term information included in the report if that's possible, so that this committee can really make an educated decision as to what we're willing to invest in this process, and two, to get the assurance from the administration that if this motion does go through, that we will be able to conduct business as usual moving forward in our somewhat standard subcommittee fashion.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Vote. Thank you. Moving on to subcommittee reports. The Personnel Subcommittee, approval of the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, March 2nd. The chair recognizes Ms. Martin.
This meeting was reported out at our last broadcast meeting, and we're simply approving the written minutes this evening.
Right.
Put that in the form of a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Doherty, that we approve the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, March 2nd, 2011. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Next subcommittee, the Athletic Subcommittee, report and approval of the minutes of the meeting held Tuesday, March 15th. The chair recognizes Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I apologize to everyone in advance for the length of it. We did have this meeting on March 15th, and it was at 9 o'clock, and it was at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was at the high school. Myself, John Leahy, and Jackie Doherty from the Athletic Subcommittee was present, and also Allison Larraba. We had from Central Office, we had Dr. Scott, Superintendent, Gene Franco, Deputy Superintendent, Jay Lang, the Assistant Superintendent, and Tim Sheehan, Business Office. We also had, we had Ed Razmarek, who's the headmaster at the high school, and Jimmy DeProfa, the athletic director. And I would like to also acknowledge, too, the people that were present there with the coaches, which I think was absolutely fantastic to have them there to give us the input. We had Jennifer Kerry, Phil Meyer, Rick O'Brien, Tim O'Keefe, Dan Graham, Scott Ollett, Scott Boyle, William Dunahee, Dave Casey, and Richard O'Loughlin. The agenda for the morning, it was an update on staffing because, again, we have the spring sports coming up, and we discussed that in great length. The second issue that we talked about were the athletic finance reports, and this was a motion that Ms. Doherty put on a while ago and wanted to try to streamline that process to try to make it more efficient. We started off in the meeting, Mr. Mayor, and we certainly, the school committee, I think we certainly appreciated the fact that all the coaches were there, and also the fact that throughout the entire year, with the budget cuts that have taken place, that they all truly worked as a team to make sure that our sports were available to our students. But also, I think what was noted too, is that when the coaches spoke, that, you know, even though, again, they pulled together and they made sure that levels were available for their various sports, but they also wanted to point out to the school committee that just like in a classroom, Mr. Mayor, if if we have a number of cuts that are made, it has an adverse effect, and it's having an adverse effect on with sports. And I think that they wanted to make sure that we were aware of that going forward. Mr. DeProfio certainly shared the fact that the assistant coaches, shared the data that indicated that 18 coaching positions were cut last year and 11 more this year. And as a result, the coaches and the athletes have certainly endured and certainly overcame numerous challenges that they were faced with. Mr. DeProfio also commented on the developmental appropriateness and the importance of offering all three levels of athletics. And I think that's extremely important. We spent a lot of time on that, Mr. Mayor, talking about the fact that it was extremely important to have as many levels as possible for our students, because we're an urban school and it's something that we offer our students. It's extremely important, and it's important to them. We don't have some of the luxuries that many of the surrounding towns have, and I think that the sports and the athletics are extremely important to our students. And as was pointed out, that it certainly is counted as an extension of the classroom, whatever takes place, whether it's in the basketball court or out in the football field. And the long life situations that kids learn from what takes place in these different athletic events. Also discussed was the importance of the volunteers and the expansion of the volunteers in response to the budget problems that we faced with. And, once again, we've kind of pieced this program together, and I do believe that as I have mentioned a minute ago, the coaches are very concerned about going forward whether we can sustain our levels. The elements of a new concussion law, we also talked about that in all coaches and all volunteers have to take that course. It's mandated by law. The importance, we also talked about the importance of maintaining the 3 levels of athletics and even the possible expansion of some of those sports as discussed at a recent conference. We had our local senator, Eileen Donahue, and also Senator Baddour put together a meeting, and during that meeting we had a number of the coaches, athletic directors, superintendents from schools, and they discussed the fact of what is important in the league, and it certainly came out in that discussion that they wanted cities and towns that offered the different levels of sports and also both sexes, which was extremely important. They also discussed the reduction of the number of coaches and how it increased the ratio of students to the program. They talked about the coaches' pay and also the fact that many of the coaches, what people don't realize, just like the teachers, many of these coaches end up giving back and spending a lot of extra time with our athletes. Also, I think what has been brought out numerous times on this floor, and I still think it certainly is extremely important, is athletes, the athletic program is without a doubt, I think, one of the best dropout prevention programs that we have in our high school. Families often make their choice in high school for their children based on the athletic programs. So again, I think we want to make sure that we attract our students so that, if you take a look at many of our students that are taking AP classes, honors classes, and you will see that quite often they are involved with different athletic programs. There was also there was a motion that was made by Ms. Doherty and it was seconded by Mr. Leahy to recommend the committee as a whole, just an authorization to accept the report as a report of progress, and that was accepted 3-0. And the second point that we discussed was the update of the athletic finance report. Assistant Superintendent Jay Lang distributed the profit and loss reports on the athletic department spending through December of 2010. As I said earlier, this was in response to Ms. Doherty's motion that she wanted to streamline the process and try to figure out as many ways as we could save money, because again, going forward, looking at our budget, we're taking a look at each department and every possible way that we can save some money, and certainly sports is part of that process. Mr. Lang explained the system of tracking athletic department expenditures and revenues, and the system has been designed by the business office with the intention of reporting financial statistics at the conclusion of every sports season. So again, we were going to have an update after every season. Mr. DeProfio approved of the system and indicated that it was a valuable tool in reporting expenditures and revenues in the athletic department. Mr. Tim Sheehan of the business office was also recognized for his work in customizing the QuickBooks tool to track the figures efficiently. And there was also mentioned a possibility of planning a joint athletic subcommittee and finance subcommittee meeting to review the process at the end of the year. And a request was made to provide an update of last year's budget expenditures to learn if the budget is on target without spending allotments. And Assistant Superintendent Lang reported that it would provide a crosswalk of actual current expenditures and projections as we look forward and plan a tiered budget. And we had a motion to, again, to recommend to the committee as a whole authorization to accept the report as a report of progress, which was accepted 3-0. And once again, I apologize for the length of the report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
No apologies necessary. Mr. Leahy? I'm sorry. Yeah, Mr. Leahy, then Mr. Leary.
Thank you. More important. I just wanted to add to the report, too, that really what we got out of this meeting was, and we're grateful that the coaches were there to speak. You know, the morale has dropped, and the coaches should be on the field coaching with the kids, not out fundraising. And we all realized that, and last year we had some tough decisions. And I think now we can see, you know, really what happened. I mean, these coaches, these teachers, they are mentoring our students. And it's such a vital part of their life. You know, it's not just a baseball game or a football game or a hockey game or, you know, this changes the students' lives. It gets our parents involved. It gets our parents involved with the schools, with their students' lives, and it just benefits everybody all around. It gets the participation and the support that we want. We want parents, you know, to be more involved. So I think with this upcoming budget, we need to really all work together with ourselves, with the union, with the high school staff, and we really need to take a good hard look at what we've suffered this year. You know, it was difficult time last couple of budgets. It was hard to make these decisions, but I think from that meeting, what I took away especially is, you know, the work that is involved with the sports programs and the value of it. So I think that's something that we really need to take a good hard look at and really work on trying to correct this. It's such a small part of the overall budget. It is part of the budget, but I think we really need to take a good hard look and see what the value is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leary?
Thank you. First, I want to thank the committee for doing the work. We appreciate it. I want to also thank Michelle Callahan and the athletic department for working with Mr. Shee and putting this together. She puts a lot of effort in and doesn't really get the recognition that she deserves. I think the budget process as we go through this year, Mr. Conway alluded to doing a joint meeting with athletics and the finance. We're definitely going to be looking at this on the 30th as part of the overall budget. Mr. Leahy has said it well. I think it's for the bang for your dollar value you put into it, you get so much more. And I think we need to really start educating, you know, everybody that 1/3 of our students really rely upon the sports program, and even a greater number when you start thinking about going into the middle school level, because we do have middle school activities that we were, you know, successful in keep maintaining this year. Just real quick, I just really think next year if we can fund the budget fully, that'd be great. If we're not able to do that, to put some type of plans in place before we get into the winter and the spring programs. I know a lot of sports had a lot of volunteers and made do this year. Some were not successful, most were, but we need to make sure the plan's in place to find out what they actually need for their dollar value, and then putting a plan together to help them implement it, even if we can't put it into the budget. Thank you.
Mr. Artie?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just very quickly, I'd like to say that getting this financial stuff in order, getting all these accounts on Quicken so that we can very clearly track how we're spending the revenue that's coming in per sport and how we're spending it, I think is going to provide a huge opportunity for the high school athletics to make recommendations to us and for this committee to really look for efficiencies and savings. One of the things that stood out for me was when we look at last year, we spent $884,000 on Lowell High athletics. About $35,000 of that was for the middle school program. I believe in the end, this committee cut $75,000 from athletics. And I heard, it's painful, but I heard the coaches talking about what last year's cuts and the cuts before that have done for their programs and how it's impacted them. But I also know, as my colleagues know, that our first grade teachers don't have a para in the classroom with them all the time. They're sharing between 4 classrooms, that we don't have librarians throughout the district, that it really behooves us to look at ways to save money that doesn't come on the backs of our staff. That's my first goal. And so I really want to, again, extend my thanks. I'm not going to name all the people again for getting this report, and to just point out to my colleague that when we sit down to look at athletics, I would really like to wait till we have the data from the winter sports, because at least then we can look at 2 seasons and see where are there potentials for savings. Transportation, other areas that are not going to impact the quality of the programs or the staff in the fields. So I was very excited to get this level of detail, and I appreciate the effort that went into getting it. And to hear Mr. DeProfio say, as my colleague said, that he found it a powerful tool. Now that they have the information, there's more we can do to really make some smart decisions about savings. Because at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to put everything back that we've been cutting since 2002. We're going to have to think very carefully about what comes back and what our priorities are. And I do recognize the value of sports. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the report? So we have a motion to accept the report as a report of progress and to approve the minutes of the meeting of March 15th. So moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leahy. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, to vote. The next subcommittee meeting, Lowell High School Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, March 15th. I'll recognize the chair, Ms. Doherty. I'm not sure we actually have a set of minutes up here.
We actually don't have anything in writing because
Okay.
we just met last night.
Okay.
But if it's okay with the committee, I could just do an oral report. We did meet last night. I want to thank Jack Pinard at Lowell Educational TV for allowing us to do it in the studio and working after hours to actually tape the meeting. I don't know if anybody knows when it's going to air, but it was taped. Does anybody know? No. I'm sorry. I should have got that. You know, John? He doesn't know. Okay. We will make sure that's up on the school department website. I did not think to ask Mr. Pinard last night when it would air. But because the meeting was televised, it was an hour and a half, I am not going to go over every agenda item. I just want to hit a couple of the key points. Many of the items on the agenda were actually brought up through our student advisory group that we meet with. They were issues that had been percolating around, that the committee had been discussing, that parents had expressed concerns with. So it was really neat to have the kids also showing their interest. So we did have 2 members of the student advisory group attend the meeting, which was also, I think, important for them to see what happens with their discussions with us. So the first one was an update on the Latin Lyceum, and there are really 3 basic issues about the Latin Lyceum at this point. We have, the high school has convened a committee of people that includes parents, faculty, and I believe even community members to study looking at the data of the Lyceum, and the plan is to come up with some recommendations for the committee probably by the end of the summer about how to strengthen the program. So that's an ongoing issue and process. The second was the weighting issue. The high school has initiated, right now we have 1 high honors math course that is offered to Lyceum students and non-Lyceum students. The non-Lyceum students have to meet certain criteria to get into that. To be able to take that high honors algebra class, it's a placement test, actually, and I believe the Lyceum students take a placement test too to make the high honors course. Well, they're going to add now a high honors English class. What that means by high honors, it will be weighted heavier. It will be available again to non-Lyceum students who get an advanced on MCAS and who receive a 95 in their English class as middle school students coming into the high school. It would be for freshmen only at this point, but the idea is to try to mirror the rigor of the Lyceum, to non-Lyceum students by having these higher weighted classes. The other point with the Lyceum is they're working on what they call the profile letter, which is a letter that goes out to colleges explaining what the Lyceum is. They're making it more user-friendly. In the past, it was 2 pages, single-spaced. It was a lot of text. They're looking at including data that really speaks to the rigor of the Lyceum program, such as the percentage of our students who are advanced on MCAS, the percentage who score over a certain number on the SAT scores, things like that. And that is also a work in progress that will come before the committee when it's finalized. The other major issue we discussed last night was the possibility of expanding our waiver for physical education students. Currently at the high school, band students, dance students, and ROT students can waive out of physical education. Also, on a per-student basis, there's the potential to waive out of physical education for an academic class. We're looking at the feasibility of expanding that so that more students, specifically for our student athletes, so that student athletes who are swimming, 2 hours a day, or running track, or doing crew, could take an elective, a course that interests them, rather than physical education. And the high school's going to kind of look around and see what other schools are doing and make some recommendations about that. We also got an update on Mr. Leary's motion regarding virtual classrooms. Right now, the high school is establishing interest in terms of what kind of courses students would like to take. Is there an interest in taking online courses? They're also checking into program options and the costs involved. What they have discovered is these online courses require a certified teacher in the classroom. So you have to pay for the course, and then you have to pay for a teacher in the classroom, so there would be some financial impacts of that. They're also looking at meetings with Middlesex Community College and UMass Lowell to enhance our dual enrollment program, to try to partner more with those kinds of classes. And the last update was on my colleague Mr. Leahy's motion updating on the Read 180 program, which is our program to help our 9th and 10th graders who are not reading at grade level to get their reading levels up. We had some good news on that front, that when they looked at the half year, the growth for the students who have been in the Read 180, the 9th graders, since September, they've made 1 full year of growth in their reading levels. The other positive news is less students are coming in at the very bottom level, but we still have students coming into the high school at very low reading levels, and we need to try to get them up to speed and, of course, do a better job K-8 with those students too. So that would be my quick wrap-up, and I will get that information out for anybody who wants to watch the meeting. I would make that a motion to accept the report as a report of progress.
Motion by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Larrabee. Chair recognizes Mr. Conway.
Yeah, just very briefly, Mr. Mayor, what stood out was when we talked about the high honors, and it's something that's been discussed for quite a while, and when we listened to the staff at the high school, I think it was very reassuring that the Latin Lyceum teachers and also the mainstream teachers are working together in conjunction to make sure, along with the department head, to make sure that the curriculum is consistent through that entire subject matter. So I think that's extremely important. I think that's what parents were talking about in the past, is that they thought that there might have been some inconsistencies, and I think that this has certainly been brought out, that that they're assuring us that there will be consistency with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. The part of the meeting that I wanted to discuss that we talked about was the high honors English for the freshmen coming in. So we had a good discussion about that. I disagreed with the criteria of how to get into it. I think that we're still limiting our opportunities for our advanced students, because a 95 average, and then I would like to see that discussed and maybe lowered down to a 90, because I think that anybody that in 7th or 8th grade, when they're preparing to come into the high school, they feel they're doing well, and they're getting a high honors certificates from our schools when you get 90 or above. So they should be afforded the same opportunity to a rigorous class as other kids. So we had a good discussion on that. I would like to, hopefully we could discuss that some more and see how the numbers play out. That is a subject that's been brought to us by the community and the parents, that, we want to make sure that we are really offering rigorous classes to the higher end level students. So I'm glad that we started talking about this. I hope we take it further and we offer even more classes. You know, we're going to start out with the English, but we should be doing it with all of our classes. So I appreciate that the people from the high school, Wendy Jack and the headmaster last night, the superintendent, and Ms. Franco, when we were there and we had the discussion, and I hope it continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Larrabee?
Just to Mr. Leahy's point about expanding the program, just so that the public does understand that when we did discuss this program initially, it was with the thought of having all of the classes have that kind of level. But in terms of rolling it out, it was decided that to start with one class and see how that works in terms of number of kids interested, number of kids that are eligible for it. And when we do talk about the eligibility requirements, I do feel it's necessary to say that you know, they've come up with the requirement of it being an advanced on the MCAS and a 95. We're not the educators. I think if they've come up with that criteria, they've put thought into that process. They are still getting the kids that are at the high end of the process. And you know, what I would really like to see is we do that high honors, we step up the honors program, and more importantly, we step up the middle school program so that we're getting these kids, so that they are getting the 95s, they're getting the advanced on MCAS, obviously, which is what all of us would like to see. But, you know, this is a small step, I think, in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize that I was not able to attend the meeting, but I did have just a couple quick questions based on the conversation here this evening. Did we get projections as to what that number would be? 95% would recommend how many, would translate into how many classrooms, or?
Madam Superintendent?
No, we did not. We did say that we were going to bring that number forward because it's new criteria. So we were curious if that was going to be one class, two class, or even if it would be half a class, because that would obviously impact budget conversations with regards to how many students have asked to take the course, and if in fact we could afford to offer it with that being the criteria as well as the advanced placement on the MCAS.
My only thought would be, and again, you know, based on the conversation this evening, is that it seems putting a hard number in place at this point may be a little too soon for that. If our 95% number gives us half a classroom, that's not viable. If, you know, I think that I recognize the need to give this kind of I guess a test approach, that the administration wants to kind of try this out before we commit wholeheartedly, and I can understand that. But I think if we're doing that, then we need to really look at the numbers and know exactly what we're dealing with. With all due respect to educators making decisions about education, I absolutely share that. But I think we also need to be cognizant that we're living in the real world, and that if we're doing this as a test, we should really be using real world numbers, you know, to make these decisions before we move forward.
Thank you. Ms. Larrabee?
Just to go on with what the superintendent was saying, they're in the middle of doing course selection as we speak, which is part of the reason that they didn't have numbers available for us, and that is, of course, part of the process, that once they get those requests in and they see the numbers, then we have the other discussion about, do we have enough people to fill the classroom? Do we combine classes? So certainly the conversation is not over, but just in terms of this is the criteria, that's similar to this is the criteria for the Lyceum. You pass a test, you have an advance on your MCAS. So just so that people understand that they are still working on pulling those numbers, and we'll go forward with that.
Madam Superintendent?
But I would like clarification and direction on Ms. Martin's concern with regards to what the administration would be expected to do if in fact there was only half a class, because that wasn't discussed last night, if there would be a change in the criteria going forward. So if that's the wish of the committee to reconvene and have that conversation on, what is the cutoff? How many students? If we have 75 students, okay, maybe that was the right cutoff, but since we've never done this before, we're not exactly sure. So I think it's best, if I can make the recommendation, since the concern's been raised, once we get those numbers, to bring it forward to the committee, and the suggestion from the administration at the high school, if they stand by that cutoff, or if they make another recommendation on what that would be, for there to be further discussion with the committee at that time.
Okay, sounds reasonable. Thank you. Mr. Leahy?
I just wanted to ask about one other point, because if I don't get this out tonight, it'll bother me. But when we're discussing course selection and we say we don't know what the kids have selected yet, I mean, the teachers should be recommending that they take the harder courses, right? I mean, we're all in agreement that we want to push them. So I hope I'm not taking it literally that we just say, well, if they don't choose high honors, we're not going to offer it, because there's obviously a group of kids at the high school that need high honors, and they need to be pushed and challenged. So there should be numbers there, and I suppose I'm not questioning the people at the high school, but I'm just saying that it almost sounds like we're being a little bit lax on it maybe, and I hope, and I know we're not, but it comes across like that. So, I mean, we should have a high honors English, in my opinion.
Ms. Larrabee?
Just so that Mr. Leahy's concerns are addressed, in the 3 years that my son has been in high school, he sits down with his guidance counselor, they discuss classes, and the levels of classes, and then he comes home with this course schedule and discusses it with me as the parent. I have to sign off on that selection. When you're talking about the 8th grade kids coming into the high school, that conversation is held with their guidance counselor, and again, the parents get a copy of the form so that they can say, well, have a conversation if they think they should either be at a higher level or a lower level. But at that point, you're really relying on the guidance counselor and the discussion with the student and their test scores to really place them in the appropriate class. But they're not being lax. They are having that conversation. But once you start getting into high school, it really is more of a conversation, in my mind, between the student and the guidance counselor. The parents, this is the time that we as parents are stepping back and doing an overview, but this is really the conversation with the guidance counselors and the students about what the rigor is, what levels they're taking, what their career path is going to be, what they're looking for in high school. And I don't know if that answers your concerns or not. But at some point, they are working with their guidance counselors and working with the test scores and what their past grades have been to decide what those future classes are.
Mr. Conway, then Ms. Doherty, then I'm going to ask my colleagues to wrap this up. We could have all been there last night.
Right, just very quickly, I think that Ms. Larrabee is correct in that, but also there are a couple other components to the equation. You have the teacher. The students quite often will seek advice from the teachers, and the teachers will give their opinion as far as if they're in a particular math class, whether they think that it would be a good move to take something more advanced. And also, I know that students quite often will seek advice and information from the department heads too. So those two have to be added in the equation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Doherty?
Just very briefly, I think that the concern about the communication, I think it should be addressed. We need to make sure the high school is communicating with the middle school guidance counselors about this new opportunity, to make sure that students are being apprised about it and, properly recommended. Because it is a change. It's new. We haven't done it before. So we need to, and I think that then once we get the numbers, we can reconvene on the issue. Thanks.
Right, thank you. Anyone else on the report? We have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor of accepting the report of the Lowell High School Subcommittee as a report of progress signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Thank you. Moving on to the reports of the superintendent. The first item, changes to preschool programs for school year 2011-2012. Madam Superintendent?
Thank you, Your Honor. In collaboration with the Early Childhood Department and the Family Resource Center, we are recommending changes to the preschool program for the 2011-2012 school year. Several years ago, preschool programming consisted of 5 half-day sessions per week, with transportation being provided for all students. Over the years, the program has been modified to address fiscal challenges, starting with reducing the program to 4 half-day sessions and subsequently eliminating transportation. Currently, transportation is provided only for students with individual educational plans. A review of the preschool program indicates the classes typically start 10 to 15 minutes later than the regular school day, and then 10 to 15 minutes prior to the closing of school on Tuesdays through Fridays, with classes varying from 2 hours 30 minutes to 2 hours 45 minutes, depending on the school. We are recommending that the preschool program be increased to 5 half-day sessions per week with a consistent class time of 2 hours and 30 minutes. All morning sessions would start at the same time as the regular school day, and all afternoon sessions would end at the same time as the regular school day. Teacher preparation times, as dictated by their contracts, would be scheduled throughout the week. If the recommended changes are approved, student instructional time will increase from 10 to 11 hours to 12.5 hours per week. In addition, transportation costs will conservatively be reduced by $18,000. As we continue to examine best practices in our preschool program, we will bring forward the recommendations to you.
Mr. Leary?
Just thank you very much to the superintendent and the staff for putting this together. This is very good. I mean, this is a major issue for me. Preschool is really expensive for people who can't afford it. I wish we could do full-day preschool, but I do appreciate the savings and getting the times down to a concrete 2.5 hours. I almost had motions putting in saying, what would a full day look like? But that's just not realistic at this point. But thank you for being aggressive with it, and hopefully this will improve our preschool education. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. Could, through you, the superintendent, could you just elaborate on the school bus savings on the transportation costs?
Yes, I'd ask Assistant Superintendent Murphy. I don't know if she knows the exact routes that have been changed.
Presently, transportation is only provided for those students that have transportation on their IEPs. And what happens is Mr. Dakota has to arrange the scheduling for the buses so that, because some of the classes start 10 to 15 minutes later, and they've had a staggered schedule, and that goes back to when they were 5 days a week with transportation. It's just the practice has continued, but what it does is it forces him to put on more buses. So if he's got buses already going to a school and they're going to start on time, as the regular school day is, and end at the regular time of the school day, he won't have to have as many buses. So he's estimating that he will conservatively save about $18,000. It could even be as high as $21,000.
But for preschool, aren't we talking the smaller buses? Because the idea was to keep the preschool kids off the bus with the older kids.
We are talking the small.
We're talking about putting preschool children on the bus with...
No, we're not
Okay, so
talking
what are
about them going onto the big buses. We're talking about them staying on the smaller buses.
Okay, so there's still small buses, but the routes will be...
Right.
Okay, all right, that's good then. Thank you.
Thank you. We would need a motion to approve the report as presented by Ms. Larup, a second by Ms. Doherty. Any further discussion, Ms. Martin?
I just have one quick question, and you can refresh my memory. My sense was that we had made these scheduling changes because, I mean, initially, and this is going, I think, further back than myself, just because of the overall kind of hustle and bustle that happens during the start of day and the end of day, and that we had moved those times specifically so that preschoolers weren't kind of part of that, you know, again, I want to say melee, which isn't appropriate, but that they would kind of taken out of that, and that recognizing that so many of our preschoolers were being dropped off by parents because we had eliminated transportation as well, that was part of the rationale in giving them a different start time and end time. So I just want to make sure that that's been taken into consideration, that we can still maintain that safety for them.
When we met with the principals, we had talked about that, and the principals felt very confident that they would be able to manage the new flow of traffic, and it would actually work out easier for parents who were bringing maybe a kindergarten student and a first grade student, and a preschool student, so it might be easier for parents, but the principals felt pretty confident that they would be able to manage the new flow of traffic, if you will.
Thank you. Anything else? Roll call.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. The next item is pre-kindergarten program at the Merklin. It's a partnership with the Lowell Public Schools and Community Teamwork. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to acknowledge Karen Fredericks, Executive Director from Community Teamwork, being here tonight with this proposal, and also our Early Childhood Administrator, Terry O'Neill, who has worked with Ed Murphy on this project as well. And this is a proposal that we're bringing forward to the committee. We've worked with the Department of Early Education and Care. They are going to sponsor a significant portion of the cost of this particular program, partnering with our community teamwork as our community partner will enable us to offer more wraparound services 12 months of the year, which we were looking to be able to offer the students who would attend the pre-K program at the Merklin School. Historically, the children who attend the Merklin Pre-K program didn't necessarily stay and continue their education at that site. They went to other schools across the district, and we did want to focus our efforts on retaining our students who attended the pre-K program at the Merklin School. We want to be able to offer wraparound services. For us to be able to do that, we did need to partner with one of our strong community partners, and that was CTI. They are taking a considerable amount of dollars from their Head Start program. I bring your attention to the second page. It's anticipated that CTI and Head Start will support the Merklin School pre-K classroom with over $133,000 until June 30th of 2012. In addition, through this partnership with Lowell Public Schools, CTI has been able to apply for an additional $50,000 grant from Massachusetts Department of Early Education and Care to support the program. In conjunction with the pre-K program, part of the conditions on us accepting the funding for this particular full-day pre-K program is a requirement that we have parents of the children who are enrolled in the slot, that they have to take part in adult education programming, everything from literacy training, citizen classes, parent education, parent-child socialization classes, and that they would have work opportunities provided to them. There's quite a bit more detail in the report. I can answer any questions that the committee would like, but we would ask the committee to approve the establishment of a revolving account. We have a revolving account for other line items in our budget as well, but for this particular situation, for us to take in fees that will be on a sliding scale as described and dictated to us by the state and by the federal government, we would need the establishment of a revolving account.
Ms. Larrabee.
Thank you. Just so I understand, will CTI be looking to make sure that these are eligible students, or is the Lowell Public School taking that responsibility?
The criteria with regards to what children qualify is dependent upon the grant sources of Head Start programming and the department. So both are telling us what the criteria is for the program.
Any other questions? What's the wish of the committee?
Motion to establish a revolving account to support
The motion should actually read that we accept Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 26C, in order for us to establish a revolving fund, as I understand it.
That's correct, Your Honor.
He can second.
Okay, Ms.
I just wanted to make a disclosure statement, just that I am an employee of Community Teamwork and won't be voting on this. Thanks.
Thank you. No, Mr. Leary did. I'm on the board of Community Teamwork, but it's a non-paying position, so I don't have any remuneration, so I'm going to vote on it, but I just want to get that out into the record. Any further discussion? Roll call.
They told me not to vote on MASC stuff, and I'm...
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Present.
6 yeas, 1 present, approved.
Thank you. Next item up, 2011 graduation dates, Lowell High School and adult education. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. Lowell High School graduation this year will be Wednesday, June 1st at 6 p.m. UMass Lowell, Saugus Arena. And the adult education will be Friday, June 3rd at 7 p.m. at Lowell High School in the auditorium. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Accept the communication by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Leahy. Accept the communication placed on file. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, the vote. Next item, update on current usage and state of
Your Honor.
textbooks. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Leahy.
No, I'm sorry. I should know this by now, but do we vote to postpone our meeting because it's the same night, or do we just, I always forget, do we just let it go? Oh, okay. All right. We'll do it closer.
You must have been a planner in your former life. Next item, update on current usage and state of textbooks. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. Attached to this report is actually a lengthy description of our current usage and the state of our textbooks. In an effort to collect the data to best inform the school committee regarding the age and condition of our core textbook series, information was collected on all core curriculum books by level, subject, content, and copyright date. It is arranged by elementary, middle, and high school as indicated in the attached list. Additionally, to make the committee aware of current technology applications used in daily instruction, the current software and annual cost of subscriptions, as well as the cost of all consumable instructional materials, have also been included. The majority of the core materials in the elementary schools in their area of ELA, mathematics, ESL, have been purchased within the last 5 years. Early childhood materials from pre-K, ELA, science, and social studies were purchased more than 7 years ago. In the middle schools, textbooks for core instruction in the areas of ELA and mathematics are 2 to 3 years old. Fiction and nonfiction trade books are used to support the learning in ELA. The trade books used to support this instruction are replaced as needed depending on the condition of the books. Beyond the literature collection, there is some usage of core curriculum that was purchased 14 years ago. Reading intervention resources were purchased within the past 5 years. In the area of science, core curriculum texts in grades 6, 7, and 8 are 11 years old. This year, we purchased a new grade 5 science series. Social studies texts in grades 5, 6, 7 have been purchased within the past 5 years. The district is planning to purchase a new grade 8 social studies text in the spring of 2011. The high school collection is as follows. The English books have been purchased within the past 10 years. The science texts have been purchased within the past 4 to 9 years. The social studies texts have been purchased within the past 6 to 11 years, and mathematics texts at the high school were purchased within the past 3 years. The district monitors the age of the textbooks and keeps a master list of the core textbooks used for instruction across the school system. Replacement of the textbooks is revisited based on changes in the curriculum standards and age and condition of the textbooks based on the available budget. We maintain a prioritized list of core textbooks needs and purchase these according to yearly budget allocations. In some instances, the district orders recycled text from a publishing company that has secondhand books when the textbooks continues to meet the standards and there is a need for additional copies. We continuously replace text as needed. When a textbook series becomes outdated, a selection committee is formed that includes teachers, building, and district administrators. Any questions, Your Honor?
No, thank you. Ms. Larrabee?
Thank you very much. This was clearly a lot of work. and a lot of information. I think the only thing that really had me concerned was when we see numbers like 14 years ago and 11 years ago, and just, I guess the big question for me is, are the teachers supposed to report to their department head if they've got books that are in very bad condition? Because I have to tell you, I have seen some that are just really, I don't think should be out there in terms of the binding and falling apart. So I'm just trying to figure out where that misstep went, or where that got through the cracks. Because it sounds like you've got a handle on how old things are and replacements, but we still have some things out there that are not in good shape.
Madam Superintendent?
That's correct, and as the report details for the committee, some of the texts, in particular at the high school, are old, and that is a concern. And and again, we do the best we can with the budget allotted to us. As curriculum changes get made at the state level with regards to Common Core standards and the MCAS, the district has done its best to keep up with the needed materials so that our teachers have the resources necessary to teach the requirements of the curriculum frameworks. Some of the textbooks at the high school, we share your concern that they are in disrepair, but to the best of our ability, we are replacing them as we proceed. During this budget cycle, we will bring forward again a textbook requirement, like we did last year, like we did for years past. And the committee, even though times have been tough, they've always left money in the line item for textbooks. Obviously, it's not adequate enough to replace all the books that are needed, but we have paid close attention to that issue. Ms. Rego, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, and if there's information missing, this was core material, so if there are other ancillary texts that are used for particular teaching, that could be in fact where you're seeing some older copies. I asked for the core curriculum, not every purchase that's out there, and I got this directly from the high school, so I'm thinking that if the materials are that old, teachers should contact Dr. Jack as a result, but if it's older than what we have here, then it would be interesting to me if it's a core material, because that's what's supposed to have been reported, unless something fell through the cracks, which, a lot of books, but this is just core material, so I want to clarify that, because there are other things that we have that teachers may in fact use for particular units or whatnot, and that could be part of it, but I'm not sure. But if there is a concern as a parent, absolutely bring that to the attention of the high school, no question.
And then my next question is particularly when you're looking at the high school, you have there are some recommendations listed here about the text and using different books. Is that something that you need an okay from us as a group, or is that something that's, I would think that's handled internally?
Yeah, at all times, the principals and the leaders at Lowell High School always tell us what they think would be next. For instance, in budget cuts, we've known that we've needed an 8th grade social studies adoption, but we really haven't been able to do that, so we knew that. And the teachers come forward to the administration, they spend as much as the budget that they have internally, and then they come to us if there's any further need. These are just the major adoptions, so I'll give you an example. Mr. Skinner at the Daily School checked with central office because he was going to replace some 7th grade books that he had. He said, "There's nothing changing. We're just going to get newer copies, but we are changing 8th grade." So we're in touch with our principals, and they let us know the condition of the books. So that's really how the communication proceeds in those areas. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Ms. Larrabee, second by Ms. Doherty. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. The next item, update on the status of leveled libraries. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is in response to a motion made by School Committee member John Lay. And attached, we give you a full report on the status of our reading libraries throughout the system. We met with the principals. We asked them to rate the condition of their balanced literacy libraries in their schools. That's attached on the last page. The table there gives you an idea of the condition of their fiction and nonfiction and the amount of dollars needed at this point to update all of the balanced literacy libraries throughout the system. And that at this point totals $125,800.
Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. Through you, the superintendent, thank you for the report. It's very accurate and it's very good. And of course, we'll bring this up at the budget because these reading libraries, level libraries, such an important part, especially from elementary up. But thank you. Very good report.
Mr. Hardy?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a quick question. I recognize that the nonfiction has become even more important.
Correct.
Because we're doing a lot of content learning through our kids reading nonfiction books. My question really goes to who is going to make these recommendations and purchasing decisions without school-based librarians anymore? Wasn't that really something that came from the school, or is that a central office thing? So through you to the superintendent, is there a plan for how we're going to make these decisions? We don't have school-based librarians anymore.
Right, these decisions are made by our district personnel as well as our reading teachers and our literacy coaches, but I'll have Ms. Franco expand. But they're reading materials to advance children's reading levels, so we do involve the reading teachers.
Yes, the building administration as well as coaches, teachers know the levels of the children, how they're progressing. So in essence, they'll be looking to see what are the content areas that they have to have information, especially nonfiction. Nonfiction is a standard we need to work on as a district, nonfiction response and nonfiction literature. So we look at that. The schools know what they have for these particular topics and the levels of children. So that's determined at the school, and then they submit the orders to central office. So, but there is an expectation that there'll be a fair amount of fiction and nonfiction text by level, by group. So that's how it's determined. The schools are very well versed at what they need, what they have, and what they have to develop to get to that level. So when the criteria came up, truthfully, the principals and coaches and teachers involved got the information back pretty quickly, so they know what books they need and how much it would take to get to the next level. So it was it's pretty systematic out there. Some people really have a lot of need, and some have been purchasing as we go, because some of our schools, as you recall, got $20,000 with the LEP money. Some of our schools, as you recall, were commendation schools and got some money. So along the way, anytime there's any extra, they spend money. And at schools, they'll say, okay, $400, $2,000, whatever it is, they manage it. And they know what they have and what they need. They're very well versed at that, so.
Thank you. Madam Superintendent?
Another example of district involvement, this year when we looked at our fourth grade MCAS scores, we did look at the amount that our students were expected to know with regards to dealing with nonfiction text. And so as a district, we look across the system and say, do we have enough nonfiction text in the area of science and social studies, for example, in grade 4, and where do we have gaps? So those are the conversations we have with our principals and our coaches and our reading teachers. And then if you're teaching electricity at the fourth grade level, do you have nonfiction texts about electricity that's at perhaps a sixth grade level because you have a fourth grade student who's reading above grade level? Do you have a second grade or a third grade book that's on electricity that they can read independently on that topic? So it's very involved, but we definitely match it up with the expectations of the curriculum frameworks, what's expected to be taught at the fourth grade. That's just one example, but we do that by grade level.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Motion to accept the report of progress by Ms. Larrabee, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next item, automated external defibrillators. Update, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. As reported at the February 16, 2011 school committee meetings, our school nursing supervisor, Lisa Golden, and Ann Murphy recommended that we look at the automated external defibrillator system for 27 of our sites in the school district. The cost per unit is $1,315. For us to buy the 30 units that we would need, that's including 3 portable units, the total amount would be $39,450 based on state contract pricing. We're recommending at this time that the cost for this project be funded through our use of facilities revolving account, and the use of facilities revolving account is used to collect user rental fees for the use of Lowell Public Schools facilities and to utilize collective fees for facility upgrades. In recent past, these fees have been used to resurface floors and bleachers in our schools, and we've confirmed with our Assistant Superintendent Jay Lang that the necessary funds are presently available. Life Support Systems, which is a contractor on the state list, vendor list, will check the systems every 6 months and replace the batteries, update the software system, and supply new pads if outdated. At the original, when we first started talking about this idea, there was some concern about maintenance of the equipment, and that it would be kept up, and if we needed it, obviously the batteries would work, etc. So this has been addressed at this point. Trinity Ambulance is offered to assist the staff training through and working with our health department, and we will continue to contact local healthcare providers seeking their assistance as replacing batteries, and the electro pads will be needed in coming years. We'll partner with others to see if we can get replacements.
Mr. Leary.
Just quickly, through you to the Assistant Superintendent of Finance, how much money do we have in our revolving account right now?
Off the top of my head, approximately like $110,000, $115,000, and about 60 to 65 has been allocated this year to do some additional bleacher replacements in some of the schools. And there was a projected surplus for projects we were going to look at for the next school year. But in talking to Assistant Superintendent Murphy, this really does seem like a very worthwhile cause. It's certainly going to benefit the users that use our facilities to have that device available. I think it's just a great expenditure of the funds at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. And just a quick question regarding we're working with the health department on this. Has the health department taken a look? I know that you said the school supervising nurse has worked in conjunction, but the health department is also on board with this too?
Yes, the health department, we've been working with the health department, and we've actually looked at different units, and we've met with different companies, and this was the company that we felt would be the best company for the school district. It's actually the product, the Zoll product, is what is used in both of our local hospitals and our ambulance services. So we felt it was really important to have that consistency throughout the system.
Mr. Hardy, then Ms. Larrabee.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we move forward on this purchase. I'm very excited about having this equipment in our schools, and the fact that Trinity Ambulance has come forward to help train our staff in conjunction with the health department. It's a win-win for all of us.
Motion by Mr. Hardy, second by Mr. Conway. Ms. Larrabee.
Yes, I just wanted to know if we had an idea of what the cost would be down the road for maintenance. I do realize that you're going to look at grant funding to cover it, but do we know approximately how much that's going to be?
I believe besides the batteries and the replacement pads, I believe...
Right, the replacement pads are $132 each. What we have been told is that if there is a need to use the equipment and we go with the Zoll product, Trinity Ambulance comes in, they would not need to replace the pads. They could hook up their machines right to the pads that we're using, and they would then replace those pads for us. Other types of replacement pads would be just the outdatedness of the equipment. If it hadn't been used in a year or two, what we would need to do in terms of replacement. And each of the pads is $135. I do have the cost for children's pads, PD pads are $77 each, and the replacement batteries for a set of 10 are $45. So we were looking to really apply for some grant funding to help us with those costs, for the continued cost and the upkeep of the machines.
And for them to come in every 6 months,
That's part of the contract of purchasing the AEDs. They would be coming in to check the batteries, to make sure the batteries are okay, to make sure the pads are okay. It's a standard service that they provide.
So you don't have to pay for it every year?
No.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. Next item, report on the desegregation policy. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. This report, and I thank Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, Ann Murphy, for it, was in response to committee member James Leary's motion that requested us to look at the deseg policy that was and has been in place here in Lowell Public Schools for many years. On February the 9th and February the 16th of this year, Ann Murphy met with our former mayor, Richard Howe, former superintendent, George Episaris, former deputy superintendent, Ted Rourke, special assistant city solicitor, Tom Sweeney, and family resource center coordinator, John Dakota, to review the Lowell Public Schools voluntary desegregation compliance plan. And I would like to thank all those community members for meeting with us to discuss the plan. Lowell Public Schools Voluntary Desegregation Compliance Plan was developed in response to a class action lawsuit on behalf of linguistic minority students. The basis for the federal lawsuit basically was because there was a belief that minority students in our district were not afforded equal access to programs and services throughout the district. A brief history is given. And after discussion with all of the people who I mentioned earlier, there was a review, and at this time there is a recommendation not to change the policy. I would like to read the second page with regards to the school zones and transportation. Over the years, as new schools have been built and feeder schools and zones were reconfigured, amendments to the compliance plan have been approved by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. These changes have helped to keep the district in compliance and fulfill the legal judgment. Interestingly, nothing in Justin Harrington's order or the compliance plan itself speaks to the issue of transportation. Quite often, transportation gets brought up when we're talking about this particular plan. After sifting through the compliance plan and the Justice Harrington's order, we embarked on analyzing the district's demographics. Of note is the significantly higher student population in Zone 1, as well as the higher percentage of minority students in that zone. Much discussion ensued as to how best to balance the existing zones and what a reconfiguration of zones might look like. This led us to examine the number of students attending their neighborhood school. Surprisingly, in all but one school, less than 50% of the students attended their neighborhood school. This may be the result of parents' requests to have their children assigned to schools which would allow for transportation. If all students were reassigned to their neighborhood school, our school population would range from 133 students at the Bailey School to 702 students at the Merkland School. We are not recommending at this time that any changes be made in 2011 and 2012, but it is evident that we must continue to examine the district demographics. Realigning schools and zones to alleviate overcrowding that we're presently experiencing in Zone 1 and maintaining a minority, non-minority balance and changes to transportation will be examined over the next coming months. As we progress through this work, we will bring forth further recommendations to enhance the educational opportunities for all of our students. I'd like, again, to thank Assistant Superintendent Murphy for her work on that.
Just quick,
Mr. Leary.
First of all, thank you very much, my motion, and I want to thank everybody for putting, all the community members for putting the effort in. I know it's a lot of work. Quick question to you, to the superintendent. How many students do we have that go outside of their neighborhood? Is there an actual number that you know, or a rough number of students that do not, go to their neighborhood school?
We actually can get that number for you, but it is approximately over 50% of our students go to another school that is not a neighborhood school. And we have known for quite a while that parents do appreciate the transportation option for safety reasons and for, family schedules and for a whole host of different reasons. But definitely that is a service that our parents take great advantage of and appreciate.
And just another question, what time frames do you think would begin looking at this for the next year in terms of Zone 1 versus Zone 2 versus our open zone?
We've already begun to look at that, but my understanding in conversation with Assistant Superintendent Murphy, that would be a good 10 to 12-month process.
Okay. And just finally, I think, I'm sorry.
I just think it, in part, it has to do with the influx of students that we're expecting in the next few months with regards to, children from all over the world coming to Lowell, and we're not exactly sure what schools will have vacancies. Our English language learner classrooms across the system are really, really at capacity at the moment.
Yeah, I think the big part here too, that is that City Solicitor Sweeney outlined, that there's not enough, we really don't have an argument to make to appear before a federal judge to change the compliance order. So it's that was the first process before you could even look at costs. Can we do it legally? Thank you for the effort, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Motion by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Conway to accept the report as a report of progress. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next item, student enrollment data. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. This report is in response to committee member James Leary's request, the superintendent to provide the school committee with the class enrollment number of students who are actually attending the class as of 10/1/2010 for each school, outlined by grade, such as first grade, etc., and specifically such as, but not limited to, physical education, music education, newcomers programs, Latin Lyceum, special education, alternative programs. In addition, provide the student to teacher paraprofessional ratio as part of the analysis. Please find attached all of the required components of this particular motion. I would highlight for the committee that our enrollment change from 2009 was 13,970. In 2010, it was up 14,257, which is a change of 287 students. But I will open it up to the committee if there's any specific questions.
Any questions on the student enrollment report? Mr. Leary?
Just a quick comment. Thank you. It's good for the budget coming up as far as information. I appreciate the effort. I know it was a lot of work, but it's good information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Motion by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Conway to accept the report. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Next item, personnel report. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. The personnel report is on March 16th, 2011. Any questions?
Any questions on the personnel report? Hearing none. Motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leahy to accept the report as presented. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Any new business? Convention conference requests. We have two this evening. The first one, Merklyn School staff Kathy Drynan and Kathy Bove to attend the Staff Development for Educators 2011 conference on April 5th in Nashua, New Hampshire. The cost of the conference is $530 to be paid by the Merklyn School's Professional Development Funds. What's the wish of the committee? Motion to approve by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Leahy. Roll call.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Larraba.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next one, thank you. Next one, overnight field trip request, 44 Lowell High School show choir students, staff, and chaperones to travel to New York City during April 2011 vacation. They will leave Lowell on Monday, April 18th, and return on Wednesday, April 20th. There is no cost to the school department budget. Motion to approve by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Martin. Since there's no cost to the school department, I guess we just accept.
No, because for insurance.
Oh, for insurance purposes? Okay, roll call.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee. Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin. 7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. Under communications, we have 4 items under communications. First one is a letter dated February 28th from the principal of the Stocklosa School, Nancy O'Laughlin, regarding the Stocklosa 8th grade students. It's addressed to Dr. Scott and members of the Lowell School Committee. I'm writing to you to share some exciting news about our 8th graders here at the Stocklosa Middle School. Prior to vacation, we were informed that 7 of our 8th grade students were accepted into the Latin Lyceum program at Lowell High School. We are very excited for these students and so proud of their accomplishments. In addition to this good news, we were also informed that of the 113 students who applied to the Greater Lowell Technical High School, 103 or 91% met the criteria for acceptance. How wonderful for our students to realize that by working hard, they are rewarded with choices of opportunities. We are very proud of them. And lastly, this past fall, we hosted our first ever Stocklosa family potluck supper. We enjoyed the attendance of approximately 120 families, and nearly 100% of staff volunteered their time and culinary skills. What a wonderful evening it was to dine and chat with parents. Having a wonderful year, and each day we look forward to our work with our students and families. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to seeing you on the 12th of April. Sincerely, Nancy O'Laughlin, Principal. Motion to accept the communication placed on file by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Next communication is dated March 4th, 2011, United Teachers of Lowell, letter of support for Superintendent Scott. The letter is addressed to Dr. Scott. Enclosed, please find a letter addressed to the members of the Lowell School Committee. I hereby request that this be made part of the communications portion of the agenda for the March 16, 2011 School Committee meeting. I also request that this be read in its entirety at the meeting, as has been done in the past with other communications. Thank you for attention to this matter. Sincerely, Paul Georges. Accept this communication placed on file by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor of accepting the communication placed on file signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Let me read the letter. Dear Lowell School Committee, in my capacity as president of the UTL, I have been instructed by our members by virtue of a motion passed in general membership at a meeting held on February 15, 2011, to register our support for Superintendent Scott and our deep concern over the stand of the Lowell School Committee concerning this matter. During Dr. Scott's nearly 3-year tenure, she has embraced a collaborative approach to education, relying on and valuing the input of educators, parents, and community members. By working together to solve problems in a climate of trust and respect, we have made tremendous progress. Student achievement is on the rise, and Lowell has emerged as a state and national leader in urban education. Given Dr. Scott's track record of strong leadership, we believe that she has more than earned a renewal of her contract. Education in Lowell is at a crossroads, and we hope that we can make every effort to place the greater good ahead of narrow concerns. We must maintain the momentum and build on our good work, not turn back the clock. To help keep the Lowell Public Schools on the path to success, we are asking that you immediately make every effort to bring back Superintendent Scott by renewing her contract another term. We hope that you share our concern and that you take the appropriate actions to move the Lowell schools forward for the sake of our students. Sincerely, Paul Georges, President. Accept the communication and place on file by Ms. Larrabee, second by Ms. Doherty. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next item is a flyer regarding Lowell Public Schools Community Resource Fair, which is being held on Thursday, April 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Rogers School. We do have a copy of the flyer in our packet, and it is at the Rogers School from 6 to 8 p.m., and it's a community resource fair entitled How to Keep Your Child Engaged. Accept the communication placed on file by Mr. Leahy, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Last communication, again, is LTC, Channel 10 broadcast of school committee meetings. No, I guess you do care. Anyway, it's to be live in the first and third Wednesday of the month, Thursday at 6, Saturday and Sundays at 2 p.m., Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Accept the communication. Thank you. Professional personnel, civil service. Motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Larrabee, that we stand adjourned. Thank you.